Hey guys, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters of the South. We're back with another story for you. But before we get started, we want to remind you to please like and share our videos if you think it's worth liking and sharing. And subscribe to our videos for more true crime content every week, which is
Free.
And we like free. And we want to give a little shout out to our friends over at SoFly. SoFly. And Stephanie's going to tell you about them now.
They're actually a family-owned business here in Houston, Texas, and they specialize in embroidery and some laser work. So what they do is they take their specialties and they put it on accessories such as caps, hoodies, aprons, keychains, and they take an ordinary situation and make an extraordinary, and they're really good at what they do. They have vast amounts of colors, they have wonderful customer service, and they actually do our merchandise. So we'd like to give them a shout out, and we'd also like for you to try them as well. And they are starting to get extremely busy here in the Houston area. So if you want to get your orders in prior to Christmas, let's get going on that. And again, pretty much any accessory that you have, they're able to work with. So give them a try. I know that you'll be happy, and we're actually going to show you a little video of some of the work that they do. So here we go.
All right, guys, we hope you like that video. Please go check them out.
And we'll link their information in our description box below.
Yes, so let's get on with the story.
All right, so today we are going to jump into our time machine, and we are going to go back to the year of 1933. Now, our very first video that we dropped was of Bonnie and Clyde, and we spoke of a lady by the name of Ma Ferguson, which was the first governor of Texas back in 1933. And so we thought that we would follow up since it is November, and it is actually voting season. So we thought we would just kind of go over a little history of Texas and the actual first lady that was voted in the state of Texas as governor. So again, let's jump into our time machines. We're going to talk about Miriam Amanda Ferguson, again also known as Ma Ferguson today. She was an American politician who in 1925 became the first female governor of Texas and served until 1927, and that was her first term. She jumped back in the political race and won another term as governor in 1933 through 1935. We're going to go over some of the facts for the year of 1933 just to give us a little color of that time and era, because as you all know, I just see everything in black and white back then. So in 1933, the president of the United States was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So FDR, who was the president of that time and era. The number one song was Tiger Rag and the St. Louis Blues, sung by Art Tatum. And the number one movie, guys, for 1933 was King Kong.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
So everybody kind of knows about King Kong. And America was at its height of the Great Depression. And let's not forget, Bonnie and Clyde was on the run and terrorizing Texas along with multiple other states during this time. Miriam Amanda Wallace was born in Bell County on June 13, 1875. She attended Salado Community College and Baylor Female College before marrying James Edward Ferguson at the age of 24. Afterwards, she devoted her energies to making a home for her husband and her two daughters until 1924, when she entered the governor's race on her husband's behalf. Her campaign slogan was "Two governors for the price of one." In November 1924, she and Nellie Ross of Wyoming were elected the nation's first female governors. And I thought that was pretty cool, because the same year, it's almost like the narrative of America shifted just a tad bit. And so the first female governors in the United States were voted in the same year. So I thought that was pretty cool. So
Now,
kudos to Wyoming.
Badass.
Well, yeah, and you think
That's
Wyoming.
when women started coming out. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you think Texas and Wyoming were kind of rancher states.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of there's a toughness there. So these women had to be badasses and had to be
Oh,
tough,
absolutely.
really thick skinned. And they obviously were able to convince the population of these states that they were going to be tough enough to be able to carry their states in a positive way.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So before Miriam Amanda or Ma Ferguson was married, her name was Miriam Amanda Wallace, and she wasn't considering a career in politics when she enrolled at Baylor Female College in the 1890s. In 1899, she married James Ferguson and planned to settle down and raise a family. However, Miriam would make a history becoming the first woman governor of Texas. So we're going to talk a little bit about James Ferguson, and he's also known as Pa Ferguson.
Oh, cool.
And so Ma and Pa get married, and
Cute.
the reason why they decided to call Ma Ferguson that was because her initials were being
M.A.
Miriam Amanda was M.A., Ma. So I thought that was super cute. And
Oh,
since he's
yeah.
already called Pa, let's just call her Ma. So
That's cute. I
isn't
love
that
it.
cute?
Now I'm jealous. I want a cool nickname.
I know. And
Maybe
it
not
makes
Ma.
sense. No, Ma's cool. I like Ma.
I don't know.
It kind of lets you know she's a no bullshitter. I don't know. When you say Ma, she's kind of got her shit together in my mind. So, but Jim Ferguson was elected governor in 1914 and reelected 2 years later. During his second term, he was impeached for misusing the power of pardons and paroles during his time in office of governor in Texas. The allegations centered on Governor Ferguson's acceptance of bribes in exchange for issuing over 3,500 pardons in the mid 1920s. A few years later, in 1924, Miriam stunned Texans when she announced she would run for governor, promising 2 governors for the price of one. Miriam became known as Ma Ferguson and urged voters to restore Pa's honor by voting for her. During the campaign, Jim vowed to do the governing if Miriam won. Many women were furious at Jim's plans to govern over his wife's shoulders, but the unusual plan worked, and at the age of 49, Ma Ferguson became Texas governor. She narrowly won the Democratic nomination over incumbent Ross S. Sterling, then soundly defeated Republican Orville Bullington in the general election. So I had to look a little bit further into the woman's right to vote during this time frame because I kept thinking, I need to verify were women able to vote.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back and look at the history of that because, you know, our history of women's rights is kind of hazy in my mind because women really didn't get our full benefits of rights until really the 1970s. So I just needed to familiarize myself on the history of voting in itself because I'm thinking, wow, all these men, I'm thinking women can't vote at this time. All these men went in there and voted for Ma Ferguson because of Pa. That was their only reasoning.
Well, to me, it kind of sounds like for her to get those votes, he said, okay, I will govern.
Yes.
If you get in.
I was thinking that was their strategy, right? And obviously he was popular at that time, even though he was impeached. But I confirmed that a bill passed by a wide margin in the state of Texas and was signed into law on March 22nd, 1918, offering women the right to vote in the state of Texas. So that kind of makes sense why women were very verbal about Pa Ferguson kind of governing over Ma Ferguson.
But I have to say, that's kind of smart, though. Like, to get the men's votes, I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
But you're going to get the women votes.
Exactly. And not only that.
That's a good play.
Yeah, it was a good play. It kind of balanced out. And really, let's be honest, voting to women were kind of new at that point. And so there might not have been as many women voting, even though there was, a wider range of women that could vote, but probably, and I couldn't find the numbers and the statistics on this, probably mostly men voted.
Right.
And then women came in behind them. So, it worked out in their behalf. They're very fortunate because in today's society, women, they're going to say, nope, don't like it. And they're going to get out in groves and vote. And I don't know that they'd have won today in 2024 under that strategy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Possibly, but it makes you think. But it killed my theory that Ma Ferguson was voted in only by men that wanted Pa Ferguson in as governor. So I'm kind of glad to know that women had just recently, within the past decade, won their right to vote. And so they got out there and did that. But again, I don't know how many women versus men voted them in. But
It's just great that they were allowed to.
Right. And nonetheless, they won. But it just did pique my curiosity. So, over the course of Ma Ferguson's terms, Ferguson issued almost 4,000 pardons during her two non consecutive terms in office, many of them to free persons who had been convicted of violating prohibition laws. And for those of you who might not know, prohibition was the legal prevention of manufacturing, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages in the United States from 1920 to 1933 under the terms of the 18th Amendment. And that was a really big deal back then, y'all. The churches and people of morality, so to speak, back then absolutely were against alcohol. My opinion on that is due to taxes. I think that that's why they were doing that. And they couldn't get a grip on how the government could get their money on it.
Yeah.
And we know how that turns out today. We pay more tax on alcohol and tobacco than we do anything else. But back then, they had not come to a conclusion on how to solve that problem. So they just cut out alcohol altogether. Therefore, anybody who was caught transporting it, drinking it, anything like that, they would put them in jail. And of course, they're going to get their money back putting people in jail. So until they were able to resolve that issue, they just had a prohibition on alcohol. So thank God that we can drink margaritas in Texas now and we don't have prohibition, because I'd probably be in jail at least once a month.
That's what saves a lot of people around me at times.
Right. Is my margaritas.
Coffee.
Oh,
margaritas.
Yes. Ma Ferguson also eliminated the Texas Rangers, primarily due to their involvement in violent actions and controversies during her first term. During the 1920s, the Texas Rangers were often seen as a law enforcement agency that acted outside the law, particularly in their harsh treatment of Mexican Americans and their involvement in violent confrontations. This period was marked by significant tensions along the Texas-Mexican border, and the Rangers were implicated in several incidences of brutality. And so, the Texas Rangers, I don't want to call them a vigilante because they weren't.
No.
But I think that their mindset was they're protecting the Texas border, and the way they handled it was brutal. I don't even think they had rules back then of how they would handle it, but it was considered mistreatment. And, us women more or less look at things more on the fair side and treatment of and how other people are treated. And I think that Ma Ferguson's mindset was, look, maybe we need to control the borders, but the way you're controlling the borders is brutal and it can be done differently. Yeah. I don't think the Texas Rangers were willing to sacrifice how they felt it needed to be handled versus how Ma Ferguson wanted it handled. She wanted it more done on the lawfully side. And they were going to go out and do whatever they needed to do.
Well, when you look back at Texas Rangers, the history is they were very brutal back then.
Yeah.
They were cowboys that just kind of went out and did what they wanted to do.
Yeah, kind of like what we consider the Western days.
Yes.
Tombstone.
Yeah.
They did what they had to do to take care of business, and it didn't matter how that needed to be done. They were just doing a job.
Right.
And they didn't have rules and regulations on how that needed to be done. Therefore, they just...
Well, I think in their eyes, they thought, well, I'm the shit. I'm a Texas Ranger. I'm going to go out and do what
right.
I think is right instead of what's actually right.
Yeah. And sometimes if you don't have protocols to follow, then you don't know that it's wrong. You're just handling.
True. They should have put those guidelines.
Yeah. You're just handling business, right? But yet an opinion of somebody is just an opinion. It's not protocol and rules.
Well, yeah, but what I think is not necessarily what someone else is going to think.
Absolutely. And
you can't go off how you feel. You've got to have boundaries.
Right. And I think that Ma Ferguson
set the boundaries.
And people don't like boundaries to be set.
Especially strong-willed men when a woman is telling them back in those days.
Absolutely. Because think about it. Women get a bad rap for setting boundaries, making rules, and being badass. But then we're also considered a bitch
Oh,
when we do
yeah.
it. If Pa Ferguson goes in there and says, look, there's too much brutality here. We've got to set a standard. We got some protocols and rules. The Texas Rangers might have taken it differently.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty sure they would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're having to follow Ma's
A
rules.
woman's telling a man what to do.
A woman's telling me what to do. She doesn't know nothing. She's not out here doing my job. And now she just wants to tell me how to do it. She has no clue. And so I think that she probably got a bad rap for
yeah.
several different reasons.
For sure.
And again, when you're a tough woman out in the real world trying to make a difference, sometimes men can take it wrong. But I don't think Ma Ferguson gave a shit.
No,
She's
I
like,
don't
here,
think so either.
I'm here. If you don't like it, hit the road. Right. And sometimes you have to be like that.
Good for her.
Good for her. So Ferguson, who had a contentious relationship with the Rangers, sought to distance her administration from their controversial actions. In response to public outcry and to gain political support, she disbanded the Rangers in 1932, arguing that they were a source of lawlessness rather than a means of enforcing the law. And basically what she's saying is they are, they are the law, but they're acting like criminals in the process. And I think that is a boundary that needs to be set. We can't have our police officers out on the street just shooting and killing people. There has to be rules and regulations on how to handle a criminal. Even if they're not acting the way they should, our law enforcement's responsible in how they respond to it. And I think that's how she was trying to go about it. And the Texas Rangers weren't having nothing about it. They wanted to do what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
This decision was part of her broader agenda to reform and restore public confidence in the state law's enforcement agencies. Ferguson's disbanding of the Rangers reflected both her political strategy and the social tensions of the time, as she aimed to address the concerns of various communities in Texas. But it also is rumored that Ma Ferguson fired all the Texas Rangers on her first day of her second term because they supported her opponent, Ross Sterling, in the governor's election of 1932. It is said that most of the Texas Rangers left due to Ma Ferguson being too soft on crime while in office. The ones that were left were fired. She replaced them with political appointees. The problem did not go unrecognized. The Texas Senate on September 25, 1934, reformed a committee to investigate crime and law enforcement in the state of Texas. The committee produced a report in early 1935 that was singularly critical of Texas law enforcement. However, the document also proposed a solution: the creation of a state law enforcement agency to be known as the Department of Public Safety, or DPS. So again, we're going to go back to, it wasn't just Ma Ferguson raising a red flag. Ma Ferguson was raising red flags. Hey, our Texas Rangers are not handling these things properly. They're actually murdering people that come across the border. Our Mexican Americans were probably having family members cross the border, and they were probably housing them, maybe hiding them. The Texas Rangers are coming in and they're brutally either murdering or harming these people, which was actually raising red flags to other communities. Like, if they're treating the Mexican Americans like this, they could treat us Americans like this. They obviously don't have any boundaries. So it was definitely an issue, not just with Ma Ferguson, but other people in the state of Texas. So she was willing to put her neck out on the line to kind of make a difference in that. Thus being, she disbanded, or the Texas Rangers were fired, whatever the rumors were, which actually created the Department of Public Safety, which we all know and respect here in the state of Texas. If you see a DPS officer behind you, you're watching your P's and Q's, and if they pull you over, you better show some respect. And I'm all for that. But they're very respected in the state of Texas. And with that being said, that's how the Texas Rangers, they're kind of in the same category, but they're more of the elite of the DPS, or the, of the Department of Public
Oh, yeah,
Safety of Texas.
it's way different now. They're more like our FBI of Texas,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And they're very respected. If you see one in a restaurant or whatever, you always notice them straight off. But yeah, they've come a long way,
Oh, yeah.
in the past 100 years.
We all have.
We all have. So, however, Governor Ferguson and the head of Texas prison system, Marshall Lee Simmons, hired former Texas Ranger Frank Hammer to track down some outlaws. These outlaws were caught on May 24th, 1933, when Hammer tracked down Bonnie and Clyde. And he actually had to cross the border and go over to Louisiana, Arcadia, Louisiana, actually, where he arranged an ambush. Bonnie and Clyde were killed in a barrage of 167 bullets on that day. And again, we have a story, our very first drop on YouTube, about that story. You can go back and watch that video where Hammer is also mentioned, and Ma Ferguson in that video. So the Texas Rangers are still going strong in the state of Texas as we speak. And again, they're well respected. They have their protocols and their rules, and they abide by them very respectively. So charges of corruption plagued Miriam's first term, and she lost a re-election bid. 6 years later, Miriam ran again, this time successfully returning to the governor's mansion for a second term. Ma Ferguson retired from public office in 1935. Her political life was over, but her place in Texas history was secure. Her husband, Pa Ferguson, died of a stroke in 1944. Miriam Ferguson died from congestive heart failure in 1961 at the age of 86. 60 years later would pass before Texas elected Ann Richards as its second woman governor. And if any of you know about Ann Richards, she was a badass as well. And so, yeah, Ma Ferguson kind of was a trailblazer, kind of helping.
60 years.
And if you know anything about Ann Richards, she kind of had that rancher's attitude as a woman. And I think that's why Texas was drawn to her. She would not bullshit you. She was straight up. Whatever she said is what she meant. No apologies necessary. And she was a tough cookie as well. And I'm sure that Ann Richards feels like that Ma Ferguson was a trailblazer for women in the state of Texas to be able to run in political value here. So I think that is a really good story. There's a lot of rumors and things as to why Ma Ferguson made some of the choices that she made, and we can all have our own opinion. My opinion is Ma Ferguson, no matter what her intentions were, she put her neck out to try to make things better. And although not everybody agrees with the decisions she made, I actually think she made some really good decisions, because I live in the state of Texas. She lives in the state of Texas, and we're pretty badass over here when it comes to our law.
Everything.
And when it comes, well, when it comes to respecting law enforcement, now there's always going to be the people who don't. But for the most part, our judicial system, although has flaws, we don't put up with any shit over here in Texas. And so as a resident, I respect that, and I'm grateful for it. And I think Ma Ferguson is the one who kind of set the stage for that to happen. So yeah, I think it's great. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's the week of election. I think it's a cool story.
I do too.
And so we called Ma a badass in our Bonnie and Clyde video, and I think that I still would like to say Ma Ferguson's a badass.
Absolutely.
And we just wanted to honor her, especially during our voting season. Yeah. So with that being said, guys, give us your thoughts and maybe opinions in the comments. We'd love to read those. And also, again, don't forget to like and share. Also, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. We actually drop 2 videos a week. We do that for our Missing Persons Monday, and then we also drop a true crime during the same week. So it's 2 videos a week. So to keep up with that, hit that notification bell as well. We'd appreciate that. But until our next episode, remember to see the good and stay imperfectly perfect. God bless America. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.